Hello, my name is Shanice McKinder, and I will be showing you guys my slideshow that I made. Um, Sorry, I'm been out of whack with Zoom for a long time, and I just don't remember it taking this long. This is my professional growth plan. Let's see. Our overview is like graduate classes, so the classes that I have to take, my certification requirements, my degree requirements, reflection on teaching, high expectation, professional goals, resources, and then obviously I'm going to insert the video at the end. All right, so the graduate courses I have to take are as listed. Looking at them, I was overwhelmed, very overwhelmed. I was not ready to see all the classes I had to take. I knew it was going to be a lot, but a lot of them sound familiar as well. But I'm sure it's more in depth, I'm guessing. So let's start off with the top, which I think I am already enrolled in this one, the ELM 500, which is Child and Early Adolescent Development and Psychology. And then it's POS 501, which is US and Arizona Constitution, which I love this class when I took it at GCC and when I took it at ASU. I passed with flying colors. At ASU, I was glad that I didn't have to take the course. I was able to test it out of it. So I was highly excited about that. I'm like, another one? Then we have SPED 508, which I love learning about special education. I was a special education before my current position right now. It was a lot. You went home some days overwhelmed, upset, but then you also had your good days, and those good days outweigh your bad days. Then we have ELM 515, and then we have ELM 555, which I believe that's like creating like lesson plans and understanding how to create a lesson plan, which I think is probably just like a review. And then we have ELS 540, which is the immersion of your Spanish speaking into English. Then we have the methods for strategies for teaching ELA, then teaching science and health strategies, and then teaching math strategies, teaching social studies and art strategies, and then student teaching. Student teaching is what I'm most excited about because I miss having my own classroom. I like having that power where I'm in front of the classroom. I'm like, hey, our attention, let's bring it back. I need you guys to pay attention to what I'm doing, what I'm saying, so you guys know what you're doing. I miss it. I really do miss it. I know that there's for sure like a big difference when I was at a charter school, which they didn't really require me to have my teaching license. So I graduated ASU with my bachelor's in elementary ed non-certification route because of some surgery I had and I just was not healing. And I'm like, this is my third surgery on the same foot. It should be healing faster. It was not healing faster. I was just making myself worse, especially trying to walk in a cast. It didn't work very well. But student teaching is what I'm most excited about. I can't wait to take over the classroom again. I can't wait to create lesson plans. I like doing it all. I love it. And right, like with a lot of health issues I have, I'm like, you know what? Teaching is what I want to do. Teaching is what I wanted to do since day one when I was in fifth grade getting in trouble. And I had to reteach the whole math lesson to my peers. And then we got tested on it and we all passed. That was kind of like, you know what? You have a good thing for getting people's attention. You have a good thing for people talking to you and responding. So I really enjoyed that part. My degree requirements. So some of this stuff I already have, which, that's fine. I'm gonna move it out the way. All right. So we have my bachelor's degree, which check I already have. That's why I'm in my master's. Passed the background check, fingerprint clearance card check. I just renewed mine last year. I had it for a while, but it didn't expire. I had it since I was at GCC, and it's like back in 2016 area. 2016. But GCC paid for it, and I was so glad that they paid for it. And then I need 47 credits, which we already went over in the first couple slides. And then I am going to be graduating with my teaching license from GCU, which I'm excited about because I'm not going to have to, sit around and be like, well, I can't graduate without my certificate because blah, 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 blah. Nope, we're doing it. We're not letting no one say no to me. I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm getting it done. Then I have to pass the practicum field experience hours, which that's a piece of cake. That's a walk in the park. I'm excited. Pass the basic skills exams. So I'm good at taking tests. I really am, especially when I have time to study. But I'm also pretty good at doing tests that I have no idea what I'm doing about. Like my husband, I do his PTCB, which is it's basically classes you have to take for the pharmacy to renew your license every couple years. I do his classes. And it's literally me just guessing. But like taking an educated guess, not just sitting here, oh, click A, B, C, blah, blah. No, I'm actually like trying to read it, trying to figure it out. And I get about 80, 90% on his exams. So, I mean, I could go in pharmacy if I really wanted to. But teaching's where it's at for me. And then I have to pass the content knowledge exam, pass the professional knowledge exam, complete the student teaching area, which is what I'm most excited about. Like, I don't know how much I can express how excited I am for student teaching. The evaluation part, no. But I'm excited because I feel like I teach my own way. I'm not really, when you think of someone teaching, I don't follow that area. I'm not into that. I don't fit into that little box. I like to be spontaneous. I like to be like, you know what, we're gonna do this instead. Or I like to change things on the fly if I have to, because if I feel like my students are not understanding or they're not catching, I'm gonna have to flip it around and figure out something else. And then I need an institutional recommendation. So that part, I'm like, ooh, do not make anybody mad. You need your recommendation. And then certification requirements. So I have to complete the application, and then I have to pay the $60 fee, which is non-refundable. And I'm like, well, how many times do I get to try with the same application before it becomes, you got to pay again? I was gonna say unrefundable, but that doesn't make sense. The fingerprint clearance card, which I already have. And then my official transcripts needed for my bachelor degree and my master's degree. So I would have to ask ASU, like, hey guys, I need my official transcripts. And hey, GCU, I need my official transcripts. Very nicely. Then I got to pass those 2 tests, and then I have to verify my teaching experience. Usually, like for me, I work at a district. So I can go to my district HR and be like, hey, I need to verify that, hey, I did these hours. Now I would like to have my proof. So they usually send it for you, which is easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And then more to maintain that certificate. It needs to be renewed 6 months prior to the expiration date, and then every 10 years. If the certificate is past 10 years expired, so say, 11 years, I've had it, it's expired, you have to reapply and do a whole new application from start to finish. From it was your first time applying. You have to have, if you wanted to have more than one, like you have many different certificates, you can reapply all together. You don't have to do them separately, which is kind of nice because you kind of get them at the same time anyways. So getting them renewed at the same time is easier. We have to have proof of 15 clock hours of PDs. So this one actually varies. It depends on how many, So if you have 6 years certification, it requires 90 hours of PDs. If you have 8 years of certification, it requires 120 hours of PDs. And then if you have a 12-year certification, it requires 180 hours of PDs. And PDs are, I'm going to get into it, but PDs are just professional development uh, courses, or courses, you can use them as college classes as well, or whatever your school throws at you, like, hey, you need to go to this. And then PDs have to be related to Arizona schools or whatever state you're teaching in. So that the subjects have to, if Arizona doesn't teach history anymore, then you can't take a history professional development or a course of professional development in history because Arizona doesn't have history anymore. That's a what if type of situation. Subjects taught in Arizona or what state you're applying in. The district or school sponsored PDs. So that's when people come from your district, or like you have to leave your school early and go to a different PD location. That's what those are. Professional conferences. So that's like if you're required to go to Florida for a PD, you have to travel. So they have to have proof that, hey, you traveled for this PD. Here's your hours, stuff like that. Internships. So, and when I was reading about the internships, it was reminding me of like student teaching type of thing, but I could be wrong. And then if you're doing educational research, that counts as well, which I had asked my principal and I was like, hey, I had a question, like educational research PDs, like what is that? And she was telling me that the things that I used to do, like I apply for extra field trips for our students in certain grades if the teachers asked me to do the application. That's technically educational research, and I would get PD hours for that if I needed them. High expectations. I also talked to my principal, my vice principal about this, so I got firsthand knowledge, quote unquote, firsthand citations, or first person citations. I think that's what it's called. So, have I set the expectations? It's my job to set those expectations in the very beginning. It is not their job to figure out the expectations. So, engagement, stay focused the entire time, work on assignments the entire time, and classroom routines. It has to stay. If you do math at 12:45, you do math at 12:45 every single day to keep that routine. Sometimes it's critical for certain students to keep that routine. Behavior. It doesn't matter if it's in the classroom, walking outside the classroom, walking in the cafeteria, walking to recess. That behavior expectation has to be set in place. You have to teach those expectations because if they're not being taught, they don't know what is expected of them. Personal development. So it's like classroom management and classroom routines. I say classroom routines twice because those are very important. Sticking to that routine and sticking to those consequences, to those actions, are very critical. Productivity, next expectations, future improvement. So our next expectations are, they know what's coming next. They know what's being asked of them next. And then future improvement, like say, so a student was caught running in the breezeway when they're supposed to be walking. You ask them, okay, well, how can you make a future choice, a better choice in the future when you're walking or when you're in the breezeway? And they're like, well, I can make a better choice by walking, like how I'm supposed to. Model expectations for students. Teach those expectations. We are their role model. We are the other adults that they see throughout the day. If we're not being those role models, they're not going to follow those rules. They're not going to follow those expectations. And then more on personal development, continue education, take accountability as a teacher. If you see that your students are not following those expectations, maybe you have to reevaluate those expectations. What's not working with the expectations? Maybe have your class help you create those expectations that is required of them every single time they walk into that door. Reflection on teaching. It has to be specific. What worked and what did not work during the lesson? Does it need to be taught to your entire class? Does it need to be in a small group reteach? Does it need to be on a one-on-one reteach before school or after school? Is it measurable? How would I know if it was understood by my students? We're going to know from the data, the evidence, the modifications they may need, the assessments that we give them. Is it achievable? Was the lesson of that week understood by everyone? Is it a one-day review versus weeks review? Like I would say, Similes and metaphors lesson. Is that a 1 day lesson or is it a spread out lesson? Do they already know what a metaphor and simile is, or does it need to be taught or retaught? And retaught can happen in 1 or 2 days. Is it diverse? And is everyone set at the same goal? We have different learners at different levels. So we have to make sure that those goals are set towards them. Is it relevant? Is the information that we're teaching up to date? Does it apply to all the students or their students' backgrounds? How does this help them learn? How does it support their learning? Time bound. Does it take more than a week? Are the goals set manageable for all students? Can this help them in the real world? Is it sustainable? So when I say help them in the real world, when they're cooking, say you're teaching a math lesson about measurement, bring in some flour, bring in the measuring spoons, have them do it hands on. It may be take a day or an hour or so, but they're getting that hands on movement. And that's a reflection of, okay, when my students do their assessment on fractions, are they going to be able to prove to me that they understood with that by doing that hands on activity? Professional goals, continuous education, modeling a positive attitude, led by example, set boundaries, embracing the adapting to change, participate in social networks, open-minded, being aware of potential biases that we may impose in our classrooms. Even if we're not aware of our biases, be like, oh, wait, I cannot say this because that might tell my student to think one way versus another. Supporting all students no matter their level. Is it culturally diverse? Is it a safe space? And professional development. Professional development is what is going to drive home our teaching. We need to be up to date on everything. Even if it's just slang that the kids are using, we have to know. Dream big. Tie goes into the long-term vision. So I feel like my goals that I've set are going to be long-term. They are going to help me from the beginning of now until the end after a year or two. And then I added my philosophy statement. The more you read, the more things you will know. The more you will learn, the more places you'll go. I love Dr. Seuss, by the way. I believe the purpose of education is to create better people for the future, to create adults that will know how to navigate the world outside of the classroom. My goal as an educator will always be to motivate my students to be the best version of themselves. I want to be the role model that they can rely on and come back years later and be like, Miss Shanice or Miss McKinder taught me, and now my kids are going to her. I want to be that type of teacher that I will see generation after generation after generation. And then here are all my references or my resources. And then my credits. Thank you and have a good one. Let's see. Section.